Give me a minute. One of the peeps sent me a DM asking, it was Mark Charles. Mark, why do you think Putin put this gas export ban in place? Did he know that these attacks against the refineries were coming, and was that it? I think that it's more complicated than that. There seems to be a consensus among the experts that there are several reasons why the export ban of refined oil products went into place. And it traces its roots to an earlier announcement where Russia said that it would be cutting its production by 941,000 barrels a day, almost a million barrels a day. That's a lot of freaking money. When you're spending $500 million to $1 billion a day on a war you can't even afford. Last thing you want to do is cut your revenues, right? So the first question to ask is, before we ask the question why they stopped selling refined oil products, why did they stop producing more oil? And we don't know the answer to that. The analysts are of various minds, and they place various emphasis on different factors. One is the loss of overseas sales. Oil sales to India have collapsed. The UAE, who was brokering many of the UAE banks, who was brokering and insuring many of those deals with India, have pulled out. They've stopped all their support. And that's because they're worried about secondary sanctions in the United States. And so the customers, the sales of crude oil on the open market and the sale of refined oil products on the open market, the number of customers keeps dropping and the demand keeps dropping. There is a group of analysts who believe that Russia is suffering from a lack of expertise and it's having production problems. And so to mask those production problems, it's trying to put a good face on things. We're a good member of OPEC Plus. So we're going to cut our production and drive up prices around the globe, fuck the West kind of thing. And it may be just that. It may be political capital and political power coupons that the guy is getting with the OPEC Plus nations because he's cutting production and helping to drive up the price of oil on the open market for everybody else. Less so for him because he's selling at a discount because of the price cap and the US sanctions, but it makes him look like a team player. And it could be masking the fact that they're having production problems. The Siberian oil fields are supposed to be incredibly harsh conditions, requiring real technical expertise, and Russia doesn't have it. When ExxonMobil pulled out, when Shell pulled out, when the Western oil companies pulled out, they lost their access to the technical expertise. On top of that, you got sanctions. And we know that Russia was hoarding microchips for about 2 years before this happened. Replacement microchip components for the electronic components of the oil refineries and the oil production process plants. That's about the most stupid thing you could do. I mean, Moore's law, right? Remember Moore, the president of Intel back in 1967, he said, I'm going to halve the size of a chip every 18 months and double the number of transistors on it. And the guy was right for 60 years. You hoard chips for 2 years. You're buying chips that were new 2 years ago. Now you're going to use them? They're obsolete. They're obsolete. They don't have the software upgrades. They don't have the firmware upgrades. They don't have that solved the problems of the last generation of chips. It's the most insane bullshit. It's not fucking dry goods, for Christ's sake. So anyway, there's very likely real production problems inside of Russia because of a lack of technical expertise. There's likely a problem with replacement parts because of sanctions. And then, of course, the political aspect, the power coupons, good member of OPEC, and the overall challenges of getting the oil out from the most challenging environment that there is. Now, then there's the question of the export ban on refined oil products. And we already talked about the fact that they're losing customers, right? And beyond the loss of customers, I think that there was a concern that this would be the next tactic, hitting the oil refineries. And so Putin may well have thought, well, you know what, maybe we better stop selling overseas and we ought to consolidate our production. It could be because some of these plants were hit before the export ban was announced, right? It could be look and say at the LNG, the damage to the LNG conversion plant in St. Petersburg. These guys might have thought to themselves, well, gosh, we can't get the parts for the other LNG plants from overseas anymore. Maybe this plant is so bad, we should write it off and we should cannibalize it and get the other plants up and running. Because while at the start of this campaign, Russia had 22 mega refineries, oil refineries running, and half a dozen LNG conversion facilities. They've got 44 mega refineries, 22 of them are in a full shutdown state. It could be that they're thinking, okay, what we're going to do now, we couldn't repair the other ones before, so we had to shut them down. Let's go ahead and we'll cannibalize the damaged ones and we'll get the other ones up and running. Could be that. So I think that there are a lot of factors at play here, and it's probably not just one. It's very likely a combination of all of those factors that led to both the production cuts decision and the export ban decision. Thanks for the question, Mark.